What's going on, you loyal listeners? Thank you for tuning in to the L Squared podcast. I'm your host here, Luke Larson, and joining me today, as per the usual, my lovely and loquacious special guest will be assisting me in leisurely launching you into levity, Old Legs.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. We're back with another.
Honestly, we gotta come up with a new sort of small talk besides "Are we back?" I wonder how many times we have opened a podcast with "We're back," but
yeah, 4 or 5.
It's starting to turn into like the Brett Favre retirement tour.
Yeah.
It's just I think people are over it. I've been getting a lot of pushback on social media.
Oh, really?
So, you know what?
Okay.
How about we're here, right?
Yeah.
We've been here.
Time is a never-ending circle.
We've been grinding out movies.
Yeah.
Like always, like usual. Hey, hit us up on the letterbox, okay? If you don't believe us, just check the stats.
Yeah.
Check the scoreboard, right? I'm coming up on like 50 movies watched this year. We're in May.
Wow.
Let's go. Right? So we're here.
We're here now. Time is a continuous circle. And when you are in a circle, you got to make a lot of turns. You got to make the right turns. You don't want to make the wrong turn.
Oh, boy.
Or you'll end up like the first movie we're going to talk about.
Nope. I hope you didn't spend a lot of time on that.
At least 45 seconds.
Okay, good. I'm really hoping like that was ad-libbed.
I didn't sit up all night.
Really like a turn in a circle, it just.
So Wrong Turn, the remake horror film came out just a few months ago. And our affinity, loyal listeners, for crappy horror films. And so Old Legs talked me into watching it. And so now we're going to talk about it. And I know you were wondering, Luke, what is the IMDb plot synopsis for this film? And I got it ready for you here. Friends hiking in the Appalachian Trail are confronted by the Foundation, a community of people who have lived in the mountains for hundreds of years.
There it is. There it is. Yeah, we're talking Wrong Turn today. I want to say a staple B movie, like B horror film. This is a remake, obviously remake of a remake, I think at this point. And you may remember this series probably from the mid 2000s. Luke, had you seen any of the Wrong Turn movies before this?
I think I had seen the one from, I think it was like 2003. That was like a sleepover horror movie.
Yes.
That was like one that people always had on DVD that you would throw on, and I've probably seen bits of it like a bunch of times, but I don't know if I've ever sat down and actually seen the whole thing.
Yes, I had to be reminded because essentially what it is it's like the hills have eyes in the woods, I guess, is what I would maybe say it's closest to. I watched this film, and other listeners of my demographic, if you were like a high schooler, maybe coming up on college in the mid 2000s, you were interested in Wrong Turn because it had an actress named Emmanuel Shariki in it. And boy, to say that I went through a phase would be an understatement. Emmanuel Shariki of the Entourage series. You connect the dots there. She's just lovely. I don't really know why it didn't really work for her. That's kind of another. It's maybe for another time, that conversation. But that's how I remembered this film, and I think I'm like you. I don't know that I've seen it all the way through, but maybe I have. It's a very forgettable slasher series. And as I was sort of like preparing for this podcast, um, I was shocked. Luke, how many, and I, please God, don't like take this as like a challenge or like, here's our next podcast series. How many wrong turn movies do you think there are in this series?
Boy.
Mid 2000s. I'm gonna guess. I'm not. We need to get R&D on this.
So you mean like counting the original ones or just the aughts running?
Like from 2003 on.
I think there's got to be. I would guess there's like 3.
You're not wrong. There's definitely 3. In addition to those 3, there are 3 more. There are 6. There are 6 fucking wrong turn movies. Somebody like please get a map. So you got Wrong Turn, you have Wrong Turn 2, Dead End, Wrong Turn 3, Left for Dead, which I wonder if they sort of like slap that on there to kind of like, you know, like thinking like maybe this is a, you know, the video game or something. I think that was like,
and that should have been saved for Wrong Turn 4. Because Left 4 dead. That wasn't good planning.
Right. Because then Wrong Turn 4, it's like, well, bloody beginnings, I guess.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Oh God, I thought you made that up.
5 Bloodlines, Wrong Turn 6, Last Resort. It just every 2 years there is a straight to DVD offering for you that I'm sure is awful and sucks.
Was Wrong Turn that big of a hit when it came out?
I don't know. I was shocked by this, and I'd love to get a Wrong Turn, a turn head in the chat, or you know, just get him in here to, you know, talk some Wrong Turn here, because I'm sort of intrigued, but again, like we've been down this road where you know, I'm not really in a position to start like a Leprechaun-esque undertaking. I don't really have the desire to watch 6 Wrong Turn movies. But luckily, we're not here to do that. We're here to litigate Wrong Turn 2021. So this was a film. I think this was due to come out in 2020. And like many films in 2020, this was delayed. I was thinking about this today too, and this is sort of before we get into the film as a whole. But and I know we're like kind of a long ways off from like our end of the year lists and, you know, thinking about the year as a whole, but I just want to like say right here, just so we can avoid confusion, because I know it's going to be even harder to do in 8 months from now, but these films that either were supposed to come out or that they're 2020 releases or they're technically 2021, like let's just make a rule, like if we saw it in 2021, can we just like say it's a 2021 movie type thing?
Yeah, let's just put that stamp on it.
It's going to get confusing as shit. And then we just start over in 2022, and this will also save my ass because I've been known to push the boundaries of a yearly release. But again, like honestly, who fucking cares? Wrong Turn. I don't know how I stumbled upon this. I think I'm sort of back in the mood for some. We went really hard in Halloween.
We did,
last year, and so it's starting to come around again because I watched 2 films. We have 2 films coming up for you guys today. Wrong Turn plus Come True, and I didn't have super high expectations for this film, but I was just kind of in the mood for just the classic trope of teens in the woods and, you know, chaos ensues, trendy millennials out camping, and, you know, them against the elements, them against like a evil, right? And
Yeah.
so that was kind of like what I had coming in. I feel like it really delivered. Luke, baseline, what did you think?
Well, I wasn't expecting much and didn't get much out of it. Uh,
Really?
it was okay. Like it definitely scratched the itch of just like being a dumb slasher to watch, you know? And I think that's probably all I was going for, but there were some things that
Would you
kind of,
consider this a slasher?
I don't know. That's a good I don't know, I guess. Maybe not, but it seems maybe
So
it's not.
one of the things I was thinking about, and I think it's really interesting, just thinking about the genre as a whole, uh, is that I think obviously the slashers of the 80s, but definitely like the B level slashers of the mid 2000s and the sort of recycled stuff that we got has been largely replaced by these. It's always like a bigger idea or a bigger, like, instead of just a singular person in the woods, it's a whole camp of people and it's a cult,
Yeah.
and there's like this idealistic thing that they're all of a sudden it's like, oh my god, we're locked in this. And so many of these horror films, I feel like we've kind of graduated past just the traditional slasher into this thing that I think we all think is more scary now, right? And I really like this about this film because again, like through I kind of remember the first one, and I'm just like, oh, okay, they're gonna get chased around the woods and it'll be fun, and that's it. But there's a lot more to it. Like there's this whole society of people, right? And I don't know, I that always does it for me. Like, I'm a sucker for cults, man.
The society of people. Yeah, and it was fine. Just to reference, I did a little research. According to Box Office Mojo, the original well, the one from 2003 had a budget of 12 million and only made 15 million. So it must have just done buku bucks for DVD sales to be able to garner that many sequels. So just I know the loyal listeners were really wondering about that. Uh yeah, I appreciated that aspect of it. I was like not necessarily expecting that, and I thought I was like, okay, this is kind of interesting, but it sort of overstayed its welcome in a way. Like it wasn't quite for
Mhm.
me. It was for me. It did. It was kind of like it kind of muddied it down, and it was like I was sort of starting to check out at that point. Like I was like, okay, they have like a cult thing, okay, but then it just wasn't quite. It was just taking a while, and I just started to check out a little bit, I guess. And part of it was like some of the inconsistencies of like, because I like cults as well. I don't want to be on the record saying I don't like cult movies and cult stuff, because that is scary to me. But just like, okay, there's this old thing called the Foundation, whatever. They run into them, they're speaking tongues at them, and you're like, okay, that's weird. But then they capture them, but then they're speaking English, and they have all this like primitive stuff, and but then they hold court, and the guy's very well, very well articulated. They don't have electricity, but then later on, he can just find a plaid shirt and an RV, and they can all get dressed up. And
Sure, yeah,
but I'm
obviously.
like, why are they wearing like, I don't know, it didn't quite compute in my head of like, why
Well,
are they,
clearly, you'd be a terrible cult leader, right? Like, why would
I
you
would
give
be, yeah.
people the plaid shirts and the the LL Bean? Like, that's part of it. Like, this is a real ass cult, right? Where you're in the woods and you're eating fried cabbage every day and you're doing these shitty. That's every cult ever, man. And the leader always gets it best. He's like he like and the whole court thing. It's like, well, if you're gonna apply to be my wife, like, sure, right? Like, yeah, let's like, come on, man. Like, you don't see that sensibility with like, he's not a nice guy, right?
Right. That's fair. I wasn't expecting you to get this passionate about defending it. I liked how I liked how it opened with Matthew Modine trying to find his daughter. I'm like, okay, that's a good way to start it. Like he's looking for, and then it cuts to her in the woods. I guess I would have, if I was doing it, I would have done a little bit more of them in the woods being freaked out by it, and a little bit spent a little less time with the cult. Because I felt like I was ready to just be like kids getting scared in the woods, running away from stuff that they don't necessarily see. And it felt like that was really quick. It was just kind of like we were there, they get chased by a tree, and then they're in the cult and they're dealing with the cult for the rest of the movie. I think I would have taken a little bit more of the people being afraid in the woods, and just a little bit less if I was in the editing room.
Okay. So it sounds to me like you wanted more of a traditional slasher, right? You didn't necessarily enjoy the turn towards the this is actually like a big society.
Maybe. I mean, I really liked, on record for our top 10 horror films of the 2000s, I liked the Dawn of the Dead remake, and that made it on there. And rewatching it, I still liked it. And one of the reasons I liked it was that I think it does a good job of setting up the sort of paranoia and the kind of being isolated in a remote area with things happening that you don't fully understand. And that's a good chunk of the movie, and it works really well. And that's scary, kind of that unknown. So that's kind of what would have liked a little bit more of, because it was pretty quick to get us the answer of like, oh, this is a society that's been doing it. It's a little bit scarier when you don't really fully understand everything that's going on. So I guess that would be my point.
Yeah. Um yeah, so I'll agree it does maybe drag a little bit. Uh but I don't know. I think that the last like 25 minutes of this film are really good. Uh I thought it was I thought I wasn't sure if they were going to make it out.
Right.
I thought the little girl was going to betray him the whole time.
Yeah.
And I really genuinely thought this was like a scary moment when they got to go into the dark place, and they like all you realize like this is again kind of towards the scope thing. It's like, oh yeah, this isn't just them. There's like 20 people in here who have their eyes burned out and are just like essentially zombie. Like these are truly terrible people, right? And uh and for them to make it out of that, and then you have the coda where it's a the you never escape a cult, right? This is we're back
Right.
to Marcy, Marley, May, Marlene. And he shows up at the dinner table, and I was like, okay, this is awesome,
Yeah.
and I love this ending, this is perfect. And you get the fake out. I wasn't crazy excited about the fake out,
Yeah.
but the ending was satisfying for me. I thought that the lead performance, Charlotte Vega, this is sort of the first thing I've ever seen her in, and she plays a very good final girl, very good femme fatale, who realistically within like 6 weeks turns into like fucking Katniss Everdeen, which
Yeah.
is
For
cool.
real.
But I was surprised by this film, and I really liked some of the choices, especially near the end. I thought the end worked really well for me.
Hmm. Yeah. The fake out was kind of like, all right, like that's a stupid trope, but I did like the. I don't know if we want to say spoilers or
Oh, the fuck! I don't
okay.
care.
So I like that it was like she's pregnant with his kid. That added a little bit, like you said, just another example of like you're never really out of the
Right.
cult. And you're kind of like, it's tough because it is like, well, what are you going to do there? Like that's kind of, it's a tricky situation. And so the way the way it ended was, I liked it too. I was like, because you're kind of like, oh man, is it really gonna? Are we really doing this? And you're like, oh, okay, sweet.
Right.
When
'Cause you don't know, because it's
you don't
true.
really know,
Like it's one of those things where like I was expecting it the whole time when he shows up at the dinner table
right?
and we get the first fake out, and I'm like, oh fuck, this is the Stockholm syndrome thing. Like she's gonna go back,
Yeah.
and that's gonna be it, and that's gonna bum me out. But uh, it wasn't, and I like that about it. That wasn't the case for everyone. I guess you could argue that for at least one of our trendy millennials, it was the right turn. Um,
Mm,
and for that guy, I mean, eh, honestly, like fuck that guy. Like
yeah.
it, you you're you're down to bend the knee for this guy who just shows up and
Yeah.
makes your girlfriend his wife, like, and you're cool. Like, nah, I'm
Yeah.
good, man. Like
He was when earlier when he was
he deserves his punishment
yeah.
of
It
wanting
was
to be something.
yeah.
Like
When they were having their pillow talk and he's like describing his ideal thing, I literally said out loud, I was like, that's a commune. Like you're just describing a commune. Everybody
perfect.
lives in
That
what, like that's like word for word what a commune is.
yes,
So, and he got it. I guess that's what he wanted the whole time. So, but
yeah.
he must have had some some cuck tendencies before if he was just like, all right, cool, yeah, you're the new grandmaster's wife. That's cool. Yeah, no problem here. So,
Yeah,
well, I mean, would you recommend this to the loyal listeners to check
I
out?
would. I would. I enjoyed this film. It's it's probably it's not a necessarily like an all timer, but I was in the mood for something that's spooky, that is not the art house you know,
Allegor.
the dragging on and it's so moody and it's beautifully shot, but you're just waiting for an hour and 30 minutes for something to happen. Like I did want to turn it back. I was surprised. The ending worked for me, and I really enjoyed the lead. So I'm excited. I was excited about it, and yeah, Matthew Modine, he's great. He has that perfect like uh, just in everything he's in. Like I just saw him in the college thing,
Yeah, he was great.
and he's just like he's that kind of perfect slimy upper class. Just
Yep.
just gonna tell you like fuck you, man. Like
Fuck you. Yeah, like
like it's just it always I always he just brings a smile on my face every time I see him in something.
yeah,
So
he was in 47 meters down, right?
yeah,
Wasn't he the boat guy?
yeah.
Yeah, great casting. Yeah, he's just kind of a slimy dude. And like in this, when he has his like camping gear, his like Patagonia like coat and
Oh,
stuff, I'm like, that's his. That would the
perfect.
wardrobe didn't have it. He wore that to set, and they were like, that's perfect.
Bingo.
All
Yeah.
right,
Love
let's
it.
shoot it right now. So
Yeah. So so that's Wrong Turn. It sounds like I liked it a little bit more than Luke, but once again, I typically tend to have better taste than Luke as well. So that's take that with a grain of salt. So
yeah, and which one of us liked Deep Blue Sea 3 and Mamma Mia 2?
it hey, hey, I'm ready for Deep Blue Sea 4.
I shouldn't have brought
There's
it up.
there are there's plenty of meat left on that bone,
There's plenty of
right?
fish in the sea.
Plenty of robot smart sharks.
Yeah.
Like I'm never gonna get bored of smart sharks.
Well, I hope that dream comes true for you at some point. But for right now, we'll move on to the second film in our double feature here, Come True, which also came out, we'll say in 2021.
Yep.
And the synopsis for this one: a teenage runaway takes part in a sleep study that becomes a nightmarish descent into the depths of her mind and a frightening examination of the power of dreams.
Boom.
Directed by
Anthony Scott Burns.
Anthony Scott Burns. I watched both of these films last night.
Yep.
And Old Legs told me to. And I actually did it. That's one of my New Year's resolutions, even though we're in May, is to be better about watching films that Old Legs tells me to watch.
Yeah.
So I did it.
I am the foundation, right? Martial law. Okay.
Yeah, it is a lot like
I tell you, it's out with the eyes, man. The punishment is darkness.
It is pretty much like that courtroom scene where I'm like, are you always the judge and the jury? And am I always on trial? Yeah, that's typically
illusion of choice, right?
Yeah, that keeps the hope.
Yeah, which is a decent segue because so Come True, the next film that we are going to talk about, this movie is a bit of a trip, honestly.
Yeah.
So this movie stars Julia Sarah Stone playing a high schooler who has, I don't know if she has issues with sleeping. She has issues where she sleeps, though. She is sort of a kind of, just doesn't really stay at home, sleeps on a slide in a park, and signs up for essentially a sleep study to get paid to sleep. And maybe wants to find out some things about what's been going on when she shuts her eyes, which is essentially she is confronted by a dark, shadowy figure with white eyes that
in her dreams.
And it's terrifying. Yeah. So that is essentially the crux of the film. I knew nothing about this going in. I just my little birds were sending me signals to check this movie out, and so here we go. I recommended it. I was about halfway through, and I'm like, you know what? I don't know exactly where this is going, but I think it's something that Luke will enjoy, and I think it might be fun to talk about. So yeah, tell me your initial impressions. Come True. What'd you think? How did it? What did it do for you?
Well, your recommendation, your instinct was right on. I loved it from the get go. I was digging it the whole way through.
Yeah, it's pandering a little bit to us.
It is.
It's got single speed bikes. It's got
synthy soundtrack.
Yeah, the soundtrack done by Electric Youth. I'm just gonna throw it out there. You want to end your film with Electric Youth? We will talk about it on the pod. I don't care what it is. I don't care what it is.
We'll fall for that trap 100 times out of 100 times. It's going to be on here, and you'll get free press for it. But I guess you're right. It is, there's neon lights, and there's the single speed bike, and there's synth, and what I loved the opening, and it's just it was again just such a great example of visual storytelling. There's not really much dialogue really throughout the first act. It's just mostly just showing you that she's doesn't want to be at home, so she's avoiding it, and she's having trouble sleeping, so she's sleeping other places. And then because she's having trouble sleeping, she's having trouble at school, and then she's just trying to feels like she's always in sort of a dreamy state. And it was just such a beautiful example of setting the mood and kind of telling the story visually, which I absolutely love. And the dream sequences in this are super creepy and very moody, and they got me every time, where it's like, whew, and they're slow. That's what I love about it. It's just like a slow panning in of these super trippy, weird dreams. And it's like, it's scarier because things aren't flashing at you. You're staring into it the whole time. and it's really you get engulfed in it, and
Right.
all those worked really well for me.
Right. Yeah. You're right. There is uh, a lot of the script is essentially told through the actions of the characters, the things that you're seeing on screen, and it's easy to articulate what's going on. Essentially, the part of the sleep study is that uh, they've found a way to essentially project people's dreams onto some really lo-fi equipment. It's like, dog, get a grant.
Yeah, those
Like,
monitors are from 1984. I don't
yeah.
understand.
What? Hey, what? We're we're seeing people's dreams from their brain, but we're watching it on like a 2x4. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, come on, dude. I could get a 50-inch plasma screen at
Yeah.
Walmart for like $180. Like, it's like, um, but needless to say, it is very it's a vibe, as the young kids
Great
would say.
millennial. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And so essentially their theory is that all dreams come back to one dream or to one entity, which is this shadowy figure that's been haunting the Sarah Dunn character. And uh, that's that's really, I guess, where, like, once it's identified, this idea is where kind of the story starts to go off the rails. And
Hmm.
so what were your like, what did you think was going to happen, right? Like, what was, did
Yeah.
it sort of keep you, it kept me guessing for sure. I don't know, like, were you able to like kind of gather onto anything, or?
Do you want me to explain the ending to you? It definitely it took me for a loop. It was I mean, it was like you're like, okay, there's some creepy dreams going on, and she's gonna do this sleep study. But then when it took that turn, it was like, huh, okay. Apparently this is happening to a bunch of them, and I wasn't expecting that to happen. And the turns it took, I really appreciated because it almost took on like a little bit of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind
Okay,
vibes there, where she was when she was asleep and he didn't want to wake her up, and he was kind of it was a little bit of Mark Ruffalo in Eternal Sunshine, where like
sure.
he's like kind of being creepy, but then trying to like take care of her too, and I really dug that, and yeah, it took a lot of interesting turns. And speaking of like third acts, I mean, this is one where you find, like you said, they find out that all dreams kind of essentially come down to this one dream of this like shadowy figure who's scary. And we've all probably had some version of seeing a shadowy figure in a dream. It's a pretty,
It's a bit of a leap for me, like, scientifically speaking. This They might have some issues publishing here,
yeah.
based off of these four people, and
The scientific method was diluted a little bit.
it was right. I understand what they were trying to do. I think you'd call this like a single blinded study where the researcher can't tell the participants what's going on. Obviously, they fuck that up.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's to go from these four people to, oh yeah, this has been happening for all of time.
Yeah, it's a little bit
Bit of a
of a
leap,
jump.
bit of a
Yeah.
leap. But again, as we find out, there's a reason for this and why it's so convoluted and why things start making less and less sense. So
Right.
take it away.
Yeah, and it is a bit of a leap. At least they didn't have the part where he's like, we've had ancient drawings and description of this. At least we didn't have the arbitrary paranormal activity like Bing search, where they type it into Google, and then it's like brings up one website where it's exposition.com, and it's like showing clips of cave paintings of shadow
Yeah.
figure. At least we
I
didn't
could have
get that.
also used like an oversimplified example, like here, watch me fold this paper in half, and now here is the real world, and I'm gonna put this pencil through, and then inside that is the dream, right?
Yeah.
And so we're trying to go through this from the like some fucking bullshit like that. It's
Yeah.
like the classic,
The
thank
interstellar
you.
pitch. Yeah, you're like,
Thank
yeah, I
you.
get it.
Okay?
I really,
It's science that doesn't exist. I don't need to understand
yeah,
it. Please, for the love of God,
just
like,
move on. Yeah, it's so at least they gave us that courtesy. Um, and I liked the turn that it took with sleep paralysis too, because if you've ever delved in lucid dreaming at all, that is one side effect that you can come to, is getting sleep paralysis,
oh yeah,
which is scary. And one common symptom of sleep paralysis in the real world is people think that they see a shadow figure standing over them and they can't move. That's a real thing. So the how they tied that, and I really appreciated, just
okay,
being kind of a somewhat of a pseudo dream scientist myself. Um,
yeah,
I really appreciated that tie-in, and it worked, and it's creepy, but um, I loved how, like, we're going on this little like subplot mini adventure where she is sleepwalking while she's stuck in this dream, and he's trying to figure out a way to wake her up the correct way, like waiting for the nightmare to get at its worst point, so that her
yeah,
body gets shocked, so that would be enough to wake her up, some kind of pseudo-y something. So we're kind of going along with that, and we're all kind of, as an audience, we're like, okay, this is the big third act, this is going to be the finale where they finally face the big boss, and it's going to be something's going to happen. So we're
yep,
kind of leading toward that, and then that interaction kind of happens, but then it doesn't. and we kind of keep going, and I really love that, and what I loved as well, apart from that, is earlier when she thinks that it's over. That's my favorite trope in horror when it's done well, is that when you're kind of towards the end and you think like, okay, we're done. Like, we did it.
right,
Okay. And I love when it can sucker me in. So when we think it's done, and they're I mean, who cares about spoilers, like we said, but when they're hooking up, that's a great scene. You're like, oh yeah, all right, cool. Everybody's safe. Like, we're having fun now. And then it's, the fun music's playing. You're like, this is cool. And then you're like, oh fuck, right in the middle, just nope, she's on. You're like, damn it, we're still going. That was great. I mean, I did not see that coming. For a film to be able to do that multiple times in an ending, to me was super fun. I loved it.
right, yeah. Uh, I'm not gonna lie, I laughed out loud when I realized, like, oh my God, she's gonna find her phone. Because I was like, I was sort of sharing that anxiety of like, oh, I shouldn't have a phone and it's lost, and then here it is. Like, okay, this I understand. I understand losing your phone, and
You've had a lot of experiences with
myself,
that.
maybe, just maybe, I have misplaced it while dreamwalking. I also wrote down in an incredible 2-sentence letterbox review that I thought that this was potentially the prequel to the scene from Step Brothers where you never wake a
Yeah,
sleepwalker. That's it borrows heavily
from
from
the
that.
Step Brothers lore.
So maybe before you check out Come True, you want to rewatch Step Brothers there, because that'll help a lot. Um, but yeah, so it all culminates, and like you said, like I was thinking the same thing. I was texting you during. I was like, I was like, this is a little Dream Warriors here, and now I'm ready. I'm ready to meet the Dream Lord,
Yep.
right? The shadowy figure. But we don't get that. And you talk about fake outs. This is a film duo of multiple ending fake outs, and so she looks in the mirror completely bloody, and she has, and I was like, really?
Like, are we doing
Vampire
this?
movie? This is a fucking vampire. I was like, that. I was not. I was like, okay, that's not the right ending.
Yeah.
First,
You're like, all right, I've given you too much leash, too much
yeah,
slack on this leash. Like, you can't.
this is incorrect.
Yeah.
But it does sort of work for me. This idea that, oh, this whole thing, and I was thinking, at any point, Luke, did you think, like, is this whole thing a dream? Because I also thought too that was not the correct.
Right. I did think that, and I think we've probably talked about it on this show. Um, but I fucking hate those film theories where like it was all a dream the whole time. That's
Yep.
why things just magically added up and it was all a dream and they wake up. And I did
Right.
think that, and I'm like, I'm gonna be unhappy with this film if it was like all part of the dream, the sleep study or
Yeah,
whatever.
there's like many movies. Like, I don't know if like you've heard of this or like the listeners have. So actually, in Die Hard, after Bruce Willis, after he takes off his shoes and he digs his toes into the carpet, from that moment on, the rest of the movie is actually a dream.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen.
That's
And
why
no, like the clues are everywhere, and you just have to like watch really close.
yeah.
So that's just one example. There's many, many, many.
That's why it keeps getting fantastical. I mean, you can, loyal listeners, you can do it with literally any movie you've ever watched. You can just say like, see, well, from this point
Just
on,
pick a point. Pick a point.
pick literally any point.
Yeah.
It's and then just say from this moment on, like I think the first time I put this together was when you were like, yeah, I was reading this like Big Lebowski fan theory, and I was like, don't even tell me. Let me guess. They said that it's actually like after he gets hit by on the head and he's laying on the carpet, the rest of it is just the dream he's having as he's dying, because that's why it keeps getting more fantastical. Everything starts being weird and blah blah blah. And you were like, I don't really remember exactly what it was, but that might as well have been it. You can pick any movie. Like literally movies aren't that realistic because they're movies. So like to say that it keeps getting more fantastical and things add up,
The
like, yeah, that's because it's a movie.
the first shark they catch in Jaws, that was actually Jaws,
And then
right?
the yeah.
After they get done gutting it, like
Yep.
the rest of that, Roy Schneider falls asleep. The rest of it is a dream.
Yep. And then what
Look,
actually happened was he got
look,
drunk. Yeah, he got drunk on the boat and crashed it. And
true,
then yeah. And then he just told
true.
everybody that there was a bigger shark out there, but nobody was around to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, pick a movie, loyal listeners.
Yeah.
I don't know
And
how
just
we
be
got
sure
there.
to go on YouTube and find an explainer for the ending. I can't. We can't do it
Oh,
right here, but it
can't.
is like the bane of my existence, and it's driving me fucking crazy.
Come true. Ending explained.
Yeah, as so loyal listener to this little inside baseball here, but I was randomly sending Luke movies of the ending explained. It started with Mortal Kombat because I'm like, who the fuck doesn't understand the ending of Mortal Kombat? Like you fucking buffoons. Um, and as a joke, I was just like, okay, let's try this like happiest season ending explain. Boom, first
Yep.
result. Somebody's explaining the ending of happiest season. I'm like, I'm gonna have an aneurysm here. Because again, it is a genre, it is a niche industry that is just profiting off of explaining to people what happens in a film that don't have eyes or like have unfortunately been the product of a lobotomy that can't think. It's we gotta stop it.
Yeah,
So
we got to end it right
um,
now.
I can't do this rant. It's bad. don't watch them. Think for yourself. Uh, it,
So
yeah,
speaking of being in a catatonic state and potentially
um,
lobotomized, after the vampire teeth in the mirror, when we think, okay, she was is this a vampire movie? Which we were both kind of like, that's not the right ending. Then we, as it's panning over, because she gets a notification on her phone, and the movie doesn't let us see it. She just sets it down, and then she sees the vampire teeth in the mirror, and she kind of laughs to herself. And I'm thinking you have to show us what she got on the phone. Like you can't just
right.
end it as this is a
The
vampire
box.
movie. Yeah, what's in the box? And so we're slowly panning down, and then I guess we might as well reveal it. Who cares, right?
I don't care. Yeah.
Okay. So if
Spoil away.
yeah, I mean, if you guys really whatever want to see
We're
it, then
about to explain the ending for you.
I guess
So
so. We're doing the thing we hate so much. But then the phone says, "Hey, we're trying to reach you. Um, we're trying a new experiment. You've been in a coma for 20 years. We don't know how this message is going to get to you. Please wake up." And then that's the ending.
yep. So not a dream,
Not a dream,
a coma
a coma.
or a chroma.
Ooh.
Uh, uh,
So
it
is that the right ending?
it it was good.
Yeah.
I liked it. Um, it makes some of the inconsistencies with the film, which there's a lot. If you start to really squint, you're like, wait, like what are we doing here? But now, okay, so it's not. It is essentially her dream, but now it's like, oh, okay, so the whole thing is just sort of dream logic, right?
Yeah.
Because she sort of goes from place to place, and the cool part about dreams, which is, we sort of talked about, we touched on earlier with, okay, it's time to confront, the dream lord, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so often with dreams, you walk up to the edge, but you don't actually fall, right?
Right.
Or before you're about to hit the ground, you wake up, right? Um, there's always that sort of last second avoidal of that the peak tension, and so that's pretty well conveyed here. So now it makes for some of the inconsistencies within the film and the motivations. It just, oh, okay, like dream logic. Yeah, this makes sense why things don't really make sense,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
What a podcast.
I agree with that, but I also like
What
that at
different
that point.
podcast to do, right?
Yep. I
Yeah.
like that the reason it was the right ending for me is because it was all of a sudden like a hat on a hat on a hat. And it just sort of worked because it was like, wait, okay, we were gonna face the final dream boss, and then okay, wait, now we're not. And then you're like, okay, wait a minute, is is this a vampire? Is this all a dream? No. Is this a vampire movie? No. Oh, she's just been in a coma this whole time. Just the fact that it was like boom, boom, boom. And then it makes it kind of some of the things, like you said, dream logic works of like, I guess, avoiding talking to her mom. Maybe that is a like message of like avoiding waking up or coming to the realization that you are asleep or that you are in a coma, and then constantly having these visions of people standing over you, watching you. Like if you're in a coma, that would also make sense if you kind of are feeling these things. And you know it's and also like it doesn't go out of its way throughout the movie to just try and explain stuff either, which is great because at the end it didn't have to like all of a sudden try and re-explain everything to you for the twist. It was just we were just kind of moving along, and like you
Right.
said, we just kind of let those inconsistencies happen because it was just like, well, now we're on to this, and the main character doesn't really know what's going on, and we don't really know what's going on.
Right.
So I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
So I think obviously one of the strengths of this film is how well it's done, because I realize this as we're talking about it and as you like say it out loud, like it sounds really stupid. Like,
It
oh,
does.
like she was actually in a coma. Like that sounds stupid. Like if you're pitching me to watch this film, uh, it is like an extremely tough to pull this off. And I think that is a big credit to the film that it's able to do that because again, when you're just like pitching this, when you're saying it out loud, I'm like, that's not going to work,
Yeah.
right? That's dumb. But again, I think it's a testament to the film come true, and I I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it also should be paid to Julia Sarah Stone. Her
Yes.
performance was great. It was like literally, this term gets thrown around a lot, but it was something that I haven't seen before. You know, she was like doing something that was legitimately felt unique and just different, you know, and I think that that lended a lot to this story because this story is could be very easily, if you're listening to a synopsis about it, an ending explained or a podcast talking about it, it does sound really dumb. But her performance in it of just kind of keeping that like not really knowing what's going on and just having that fear, but also the determination to get through it, but also just like you're kind of like unsure of her and she's unsure of everything. And
Yep.
it's not just like it's not a damsel in distress, and it's also not like a final girl. You know, it was just a vulnerable, interesting, different main character, which helped a lot and was super different and interesting.
Yeah. And the eye patch never hurts. It just
That's true.
always look cool.
You're gonna get
Always look cool. Uh, get Electric Youth to do your score. Uh, Electric Youth and Pilot Priest. Just I've had it on replay. Just mm, good stuff. Good stuff all around. So yeah, that is come true. Wrong turn. We got a couple in here.
yeah.
A little spooky. And yeah, any final thoughts here?
I think that we kind of usually for normal years there are a couple good horror movies that come out in like January, February, usually every year.
Yep.
And I feel like because the Oscars were pushed and the movie season was kind of all over the place, we sort of kind of like mulled over that time. So to kind of find these kind of gems now feels right. And like you said, our palates were just kind of got in the mood, and this scratched the itch. So
Yep.
um, I think Wrong Turn is okay. I think Come True was really interesting and fun, and I think you guys should check them out.
Yeah. Wake up.
Wake
Wake
up,
up,
wake
audience.
up.
Uh,
Hey,
unless
wake up.
unless your Uncle Chuck, one of a great friend of the show, one of his all-time greatest takes ever. He's gone on the record. He's told me this. He's told many people this. If he ever finds himself in a catatonic state, um, he would he would very much prefer to be left to to not have the plug pulled on him. He has said that he would love nothing more than to dream for 1,000 years. I'm jealous of that take. I think it's really good. Oh, if I'm in a coma, just pull the plug on me. Right? No,
Yeah,
not Uncle Chuck. He would love to sleep all day, just sleep and to dream and to be with the shadowy figure. So one of my favorite takes. But for the rest of you out there, wake up.
wake up. For the
Watch.
rest of you, if you're hearing this podcast, we're trying a new method. We've been trying to reach you. You're in a coma.
Yes.
Please wake up.
Yes, we're trying to give you the best show possible, right? Something that's really, really gonna want to make you wake
But it's
up.
also important that you have to listen to the entire episode first before we tell you to wake up.
Yeah,
that's
so
really
bumping our numbers here, just like replaying episodes for you. So
that's actually beneficial. If you stay in the coma, we can get those numbers up.
yeah,
That's
so I guess yeah, it turns up to you. You
You know what? Actually, yeah. We take it back. You know
Yeah.
what? Stay asleep. Stay with us with the show.
L squared.
L squared. So that being said, you can find me on Twitter at LukeLarson89. If I'm in a coma, I may live tweet during it if I have that capability. Or I'll just give my account over to Old Legs and he'll take care of it. But as far as L Squared Podcast, you can find us on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. We're at L2 Podcast. Give us a follow on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. We're also on YouTube. Check us out. Let us know what you thought of Wrong Turn and Come True if you checked them out. And until next time, wake up.
Peace.